disclaimer, we are recording. Everything that is being said will be recorded. And actually, there is a transcript created of the chat conversation also. Take it away, Brandy.
Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I thought I would very quickly introduce myself. So I'm Brandy Martin, if we've never met before. Currently, I'm working with the EdTech team during this COVID situation. And otherwise, I work at Parkdale. I teach 7 to 9 humanities, and I also teach the technology option at Queenie. So hello, everyone. The purpose of our webinar this morning is to answer the question, how do I engage with my students in meaningful ways once they're online? So now that we've become familiar, hopefully, with using Google Meets, we just wanted to go through a few ways that you can get your students working with you online and hopefully, keep them coming back if they feel that their lessons are meaningful and they're engaged. So I'm actually going to have you work with me as if you were my students on 3 different platforms, and I will show you those. And I also want to let you know that there is a slides presentation created for this webinar that will be shared out after. So I'll just quickly show you the slides so that you know what's there. And if you want to go back afterwards because you found that you liked one of the tools and you want to see how to use it, then that information will be in the slides. So I'm just going to present my screen. There we go, and come to the slides. There, okay. So here's for at least half of our session today. So the format of the slides of the material that you may need as a teacher. Basically, I will highlight the program that I'm using. So first one will be Padlet. Just gives you a quick step-by-step on how to recreate the activity that you'll see today. And then I also have a video tutorial for each of them that is not necessarily long, anywhere from like 5 to 7 minutes to just be able to get you to the activity again that you are going to participate in. So I've done that for each of them. So Padlet we'll do first, and then Mentimeter. Again, there's the video. Might go over a few settings just to make sure that your activity is personalized for your students. And Kahoot, some of you may be familiar with it, but if you're not, it's fun too. So again, steps on how to get to playing the game, and then a quick video tutorial there that you can just follow along to recreate it. Okay. So again, just wanted to show you what is in the slides so that afterwards, if you like one of the tools, you can go ahead and engage in some learning for yourself on how to use it. So I think I'm going to jump right in, and we're going to go ahead and work on Padlet. So I've created a Padlet here and posted a question for you. So my question is, what is one success you have had during online learning? So what I'm going to do is share my link. And for this one, I'm going to have to just put it in the chat in the meeting. Once you click on the link that's shared, you will be able to create your own sticky note that will answer the question. And as participants complete their sticky notes, we'll be able to see how everyone else is answering, how they're feeling. There you go. Okay, so the link is in the chat there. You should get right to my engaging students with online meets. Once you're in there, just go ahead and press on this plus button, and that's how you can create your own. There we go. So for this activity, I have decided to leave the sticky notes anonymous. Not for any reason, but just so you can kind of feel free to say what you want. Awesome. Great. Don't say hi, Marie. This is awesome. So this Padlet, now that you are all populating it with your ideas, it will stay here. So if I wanted to have this as an ongoing conversation or an ongoing brainstorming, this is an awesome way to do that. Also, you guys and some of you have seen that you can go ahead and comment on other people's sticky notes and comments. So one way that I've used a Padlet is to do some brainstorming for a project and then actually have students comment on each other's ideas and possibly from that, expand their learning, but even find people that have similar interests. And maybe from there, students could start collaborating on learning together. Good, lots of good answers. So this is nice to start off with a positive note here. Okay. Oh, Marie added a voice memo. That's awesome. I'm gonna play that.
Danke.
Hi. Great. Okay, so yeah, again, lots you can do with this one. There are quite a few settings for your Padlet, just in terms of, if you want your students to be anonymous, if you want them to post, comment, like, if you want filters, there's a setting where you have to actually approve every single post. So, in some classes, depending on the topic, you might want to have that in there. But yeah, so just to give you a quick little view of Padlet. Okay. Initially, does anybody have any questions? Go back and look at the chat quickly. Okay, we're good. All right, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to move on then. So the second tool that I'm going to show you is called Mentimeter.com. And I'm going to go right to my present screen. So again, the background work that's been done on this, you can see through the video that I created for the webinar. But basically, this is a live response tool. So what I need you as my students or audience to do is go to the website, www.menti.com, and then use the code 151079 to, again, answer a question for me. So the question I've posed this time is, describe your current teaching reality during the COVID-19 pandemic. When you go to the website and put in the code, all you are going to see is 5 slots for 5 answers. So this can just be one-word answers that you're putting in. Good, so I have one already. And as you can see, my screen is starting to populate with answers from my audience. So what this is doing is, through your work, it's generating a word cloud for me. I find this sometimes can be particularly powerful in having students see what other students are thinking and what they're feeling. If a word comes up a lot, for example, challenging seems to be coming up a lot, it will make it stand out more. So we know that more than one person is feeling that way. Same with stressful. Okay. For Menti.com, there is a few different formats you can use. So I could have chosen to do a multiple choice question like this. I could have chosen to do a ranking activity like this. It's just a quick, easy way to make some connections. The program itself, the basic program, is free. One thing that you should know is there isn't a way to know who your participants are, so it doesn't collect names, emails, nothing like that. So just be aware, because sometimes, you get the odd student that's going to type in dumb or that sort of answer. It happens. But on the whole, I do like this tool. Okay. So yeah, we got some great answers in here. Bedhead. Insane, exhilarating. That's exciting. Lost, calm, tiring, uncertain, surreal. Yeah, this is great. Awesome. Okay, great job. So I will leave that with you. Maybe I'll go ahead and add this too. You can export your word cloud or your answers. So at the end of this, I'll go ahead and just plop it into the Google Slides if you want to see what came out of that activity. Okay. Any questions from the chat? Thank you, Ange, for answering those. Yes. So I would have to show the word cloud like I was. So like I'm doing right now, that's how I would do it in a Google Meet. So I would just share the screen with the students. If we were in class, I would have that up on my smartboard and then they can see the answers coming up. And then after my class, I usually go ahead and just share the cloud with them. Okay, so the last program I'm going to go through is Kahoot. So Kahoot is an online game program. Since COVID has started, they have done a lot of changes and added a lot of things. There's a whole new section on learning at home. There's a section that allows you to actually assign a Kahoot, so you don't have to do it in live time, but the students can still use the review material. So if you have been using this previously, it's probably worth a look. But I'm just going to go with the classic one-on-one game. So again, if you look at my screen, you guys are going to see you got to go to the website. So www.kahoot.it. And then you have a game pin here. Maybe I'll... turn on the awesome music. Okay, once you get there, it's going to ask you to generate a username. Again, I'm going to tell you to make an appropriate screen name. Otherwise, I might have to kick you out of the game. Still waiting on a few. So the game that we're going to play is just a fun game. It's a pop culture sort of game. But you can go ahead in Kahoot and find, honestly, just about anything. So I did this a few days ago with my students for social. So Social 7, Chapter 5, I just searched for a Kahoot, and I found one that was already made, looked over the questions, looked over the answers, and you're good to go. So it doesn't have to be a lot of work, and sometimes it's nice just to do something fun with the students or a fun way to review material. Okay, do we have anyone still trying to get on? We're at 15. Oh, there we go. $16, awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the game. We'll play a few questions just to get you comfortable with it from the student view. Okay, I'm going to start. good at 17. All right, good job, guys. So you're going to get points for getting right answers, and you're going to get points for answering as quick as you can correctly. All right, and the students love to see the player board. Good job, Mr. W. Nice. Okay. So I think that's good for playing around with the tool. It does get quite fun. But yeah, so I'm gonna head back to the meet. Stop presenting my screen. And if there are, yeah, I know. That's mean, right? But 25 questions in. I mean, we're supposed to be doing some PD or something today, I think. I don't know. If you have any questions at all about the programs, again, we'll share out the slides. I'll go through all the clicking and show you how to get there. You can email me as well. And otherwise, again, I hope that, one of those 3 things you might be able to jump on with your students next week and get them engaged during your meets. So thank you. Maybe we'll take a 2-minute break, and then Ange is going to complete the second half of the webinar.
Sounds good.
You're welcome.
Maybe I'll get some tabs ready. I don't want to open up too much stuff. I'll tax my computer here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get started. So I will start by presenting my screen also. So I'm going to, my set portion of the slides are a little bit more condensed than Brandy's. There's a lot of links and information on the couple of slides that I have there. So my portion of this regarding the engaging students in online meets, it will be specifically things that you'll do either using your own video feed or just sharing your screen with the students. And then probably you would find that you could be using the chat feature a lot with some of these as well. So I'm going to start by sharing, and then I'm going to just jump into the slideshow and follow through it from here too. So I'll be jumping back and forth, and everything's linked here. If you need to come back to something, if you click on one of these links and go down a rabbit hole, it could happen with some of this stuff. So this will all be here to come back to it and look at again. Thrown together really quickly, and I'm hoping I want to stop early. And so if any of you guys who are attending have some really cool things that you've done over meets with your class that you would like to share, I would love to hear about those also. So think about it. I will be asking when I'm done talking if anybody has any other great ideas to add, or maybe some suggestions for some of the things that we have here also. So the first one I had listed out actually doesn't have a link, and just was thinking, uh, having students, and again, I would set this up ahead of time. I wouldn't just announce it at the meet that we want to do this. You'd want to make sure that students and when you're teaching elementary, probably their parents also are involved in this piece, but it might be fun to ask your students to bring something to the meet that they don't think anybody in their class will know what it is. So, depending what people have in their homes, we could see a plethora of neat gadgets and whatnot. But again, just make sure that you ask your students to maybe chat with their parents before they're bringing something to a live meet to show. I've heard lots of teachers doing bring your pet to school. How fun! When I was a kid, you could bring your pets to school, and with allergies and everything, I don't think that's something that happens so much anymore. So I know my son was trying really hard to get his cat to sit still so he could show it off to his friends in a class meet. And I think that's an idea that's out there already that's really good as well. I had a teacher actually email and ask me for some help with an activity that she was creating. So this is not my idea, but it is my creation. So based on what she told me she was trying to do, I created this slideshow to do picture reveals. So it's linked there. It's stored in the shared drives. And there's some GIFs on the first few slides. So just a fair warning, this can make this run a little bit slow. GIFs are awesome, but they consume some computer power and some bandwidth when they're loading in on a something live like this. So if you're finding the slideshows just sitting there turning, what you really want are slides 7 through 11. Those are where I've gone in and set up those animated squares that will disappear randomly. So each of these slides the squares will disappear in a different order. And I have some slides here just to sort of show how I did it. And if you wanted to modify or edit this, you would just take one of these slides and find an image that you want to use for the kids to guess. I'm not sure why llama came to my head when I was playing with this, but it did. And then put that picture in, send it to the back. So I've done a right click. I'm going to order, send to back, and as I said, this is actually shown on the GIFs there at the beginning of the presentation also. And then when I go into present mode, there is my setup. And then as I'm clicking, those squares will slowly start to disappear. And you could ask students to have their microphones on and shout out answers possibly. You may find doing this in the chat would be better. So that's kind of a fun one. Then I can get rid of this. I left the picture a little bit bigger just to make it easier to remove after the fact. So when you go into present mode, anything that's off your slide just doesn't show. So you can just have that hanging out there and then it'll be easy to get rid of it again if you want to use these slides again. In my slide session this afternoon, I'm going to cover a lot of things about working in slides that you could definitely apply to this lesson or take this to do other things with also. So picture reveal, shout out to Mrs. Muskowski for actually being the one who got that idea or had that idea and was doing this with her class, and I know they had fun with that. So Hangman I've got open up here. I started there's two you can do Hangman with flippity.net, which I'm going to show you in a couple minutes here. I also found just this online version that you could go ahead and play. So it would be really easy. Share your screen just like I'm doing with you. Go ahead and jump into a single player game and we could ask students to use the chat or to use their microphones to choose a letter and start doing our hangman here. A fair warning, I am not actually watching the chat right now, so if you're hollering out answers or I'm not doing well either. So hangman, that looks like fun. I wonder what happens when we hang them. Oh, that was a tough word. Easy peasy. That's linked there also. I did a quick search and actually found a name that Tune YouTube thing. If you're seeing this lately, I've noticed this a lot when I'm loading YouTube videos. They seem to load up fine on the second reload. So this, depending on the grade level you teach, it may or may not be good music for your students. But I thought it would be might be a fun activity to do. You could just same thing, like I say, share your screen out and have this going. Let's just and it gives you a nice little timer here, so you could watch it, then pause it, and then ask students to guess the name in the chat for you. I had also thought, I mean, you could certainly easily do this. I haven't had not certainly had a chance to go through this whole video yet, and your students may or may not know the songs, but a quick playlist on a device that you've got on your phone or something and just played through your mic would be fine also for that if you wanted to do like Disney songs or something, maybe even something that the kids would be familiar with from school. Flippity.net. If you're not already familiar with Flippity, you should be. Every time I come in here almost, there's new things being created. So these are some smart people who know how to do some scripting and Google, and they're using the Google Sheets to create these activities. So with every activity, they have a demo, which is one that's already set up with the content filled in for you. So it's just sort of a take and use type thing. There's instructions for how to work with the spreadsheets, and then there's the actual copy of the spreadsheet template to help you set these up. So as you can see, Hangman is in here. You could set up hangman games with phrases or words that are specific to topics you're trying to cover. You can set up a flippity bingo here and some Mad Libs too, which I thought would be a fun thing to do with your students. And I have listed out separately in the next activity. So just to be aware that you can do that through Flippity as well. So some of these are definitely in class activities, but some of them would lend themselves really nicely to doing a live meet and sharing your screen as well. So I highly recommend checking those out. So this Mad Libs activity that I've put here is a fairly simplistic that someone has set up. So as you can see, they have just a bunch of different Mad Libs. Scrolling down the page, they've sold up quite a bit of their real estate for advertising on the side. So it all kind of appears here on the left in a screen share review like this. I can control plus. See if we can't get a little bit of that advertising. Depending on the website, this one's a smart website. Their advertising is growing also, but we are able to get this a little bit bigger for people to see. So again, you might not have seen me doing that, but I was using Control Plus. Up here, you can zoom in on a web browser. So when you're showing students something on your screen, if you need to make it bigger for them, you can go all the way up to like 400%. I'm still going. 500 is the max. When it's zoomed in like this, Chrome actually remembers your zoom. Even if you close it and come back, you might see it zoomed in like this. Just hitting the reset button will take it back. So that's another little tip when you're doing screen sharing, just to help zoom in and make things a little bit bigger. Keeping in mind, you are probably looking at a much bigger screen than your students are. GeoGuessr. If you've worked with me shoulder to shoulder over the years, I might have showed this to you before. It still is one of my favorite apps that integrates with Google Maps and Street View. So what it is a geographic guessing game. When we click the link, and go I'm just going to go with a try right now. You can log in with your Google account. Oh, this one's easy. You can log in with your Google account and set up, and you can actually save these things and whatnot too. But just to do it with your class is sort of an on the fly thing. Anytime you come in and start a new game, it's going to put you somewhere different. So the idea is we need to have a look around and figure out where we are here. We can navigate and walk down the road. I've done these live on the smart board in class and had really good experiences with the students talking about things like geographic landmarks. Excuse me. And, the side of the road that the people are driving on and things like that. So there's lots of things that you can find in a street view to help you sort of figure out where you are. And again, you could ask students to respond in the chat and with their guesses. And then here on the map of the world is where we would go in and put a guess where we think we are. So again, this is a screen share thing. It's also something though, if you had wanted to send it out to your students and have them do this, they certainly can. Every time the link is clicked, it's a live thing for whoever clicks it, and they're in a new street view and a new guessing game. When you pick your guess, you can just hit that you've guessed. I was I should have zoomed in before I put my pointer on, and then it tells you how far away that you were from your actual location and whatnot. So we can play another round quickly right here and explore some beautiful places. Learn about geography and give the kids a chance to see the different places around the world at the same time. Love GeoGuessr. Auto draw and quick draw are two things. These are ones that you could end up down the rabbit hole if you click these links. I'm going to start actually with quick draw. So quick draw is a machine learning experiment from Google, and it's been running now for I want to say at least a year. And basically it's a computer somewhere that's owned by Google that's learning how people draw. So this interface, when we go ahead and click let's draw, it tells us something it wants us to draw. So I know what I want to draw now. I have to try and draw an elephant. This will be fun. I'm using my mouse. What's cool about this though, I need to finish the body. So I'm not sure if you could hear that. She caught elephant out of that. So that's how it goes. This is something where Google is using something to occupy us, but also collecting information and data and using it to build their Google verse. Like I say, it's been around for quite some time. When it first came out, it would take her a long time to guess things. Some stuff she guesses before you can even get a line out. It's amazing. So that's something that you could do to interact with your students in a screen share like this. It's also something that you could give to them as an activity to do on their own as well. So fun, nothing necessarily, you're not going to probably cover any specific outcomes out of the curriculum here, but it's neat. And it's also interesting to talk about the machine learning piece and how the computer, by all of the people doing those same motions, how the computer realizes that after you've made 3 or 4 mouse strokes that what's happening at the end of what you're doing. So it's a really cool thing for machine learning and STEM science. And then really similar is auto draw. So this will be using the same AI interface. And in this case, it's allowing you to become an artist. So you'd get to decide what you want to draw. And as you start drawing, it right away will start guessing what it thinks you're trying to create up top here. And the more you draw, the more it will go on trying to figure out what it thinks you're making. So I've gone a very, very basic, terrible bicycle, but AutoDraw knows what I'm drawing, and they've actually given me several up top to choose from. So I could actually choose to replace that with a proper, nice, neat sketch drawing. So this one could be fun to show and play with. It's also useful for creating little diagrams for yourself to use. So I like the Google machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's cool stuff. It's a pretty simple little editor here. I can select this image and copy it and use it elsewhere if I wanted to as well. So those are my sort of, I would call them game-based suggestions. The next, I will jump to the next slide and talk about I had my little if I was in present mode, this was to play. Talk about doing virtual field trips. So there are honestly thousands of options if you consider Google Street View in maps and that you can access almost anywhere in the world. There are tons of things that you could do to get your kids virtually out of their homes. You can go to a museum and look at a famous piece of art. You could look at some live cams and study animals. There's a ton of information here. So I've included some links out to the Google Arts and Culture. This stuff I actually pulled just right off our parent website this morning. So these are all linked there under fun and creative apps also, so students and parents have access there. Google Arts and Culture used to be called the Google Cultural Institute. If I had sat shoulder to shoulder with you at any point in time, you may have seen this before. You might still be using it, or you might have forgotten about it, like I actually kind of had until I was looking at this field trip piece specifically. So Google Arts and Culture, to try and sum it up really quick, Google has captured artwork from museums all over the world in incredibly high definition. So these are opportunities to have a look at real pictures of the artwork where it hangs in the museum. These are the originals. On You can almost make out the texture of the paint. The pictures are so crisp. They have also inside tours. You can tour Versailles on the Google Arts and Culture. It's amazing. And so you could walk around in the actual building, and then you can also hone in and zoom in on those artworks. And if they are filmed in gigapixels, they call them. There's actually a nice little icon, so it'll tell you if you're looking at an artwork that Google has spent the time to put into this super, super high definition. You can zoom in on a painting, like I said, and see the artist's brushstrokes and see how thick the paint is. So that could open up some language arts writing assignments or some discussions with you in your class. Like I say, you can find different museums to tour here just to have a look around. Really cool stuff.
And we
Google
just have
Earth,
a quick question in the chat.
sure.
So one of the questions, what are some activities that you can do after to show student learning? So you kind of just said that, but so for example, when you've done a virtual field trip, how would you get the students to show their learning?
I would probably have something along with it that they were doing. So,
Mm.
maybe you've got them filling out a little slides, and maybe it is interacting in the chat just during the meet also.
Right.
So same kind of things like as if you were going on an actual field trip. If you had some kind of up activities you would do, you certainly could.
Are these Google ones, are they guided or do they just go wherever?
Which the Google Cultural Institute?
It wasn't specific. I guess just the field trip.
So I mean, what I am suggesting here is not having everybody go do the field trip themselves. I'm suggesting you decide ahead of time what you're going to do. So, um, go into Google Arts and Culture and be like, we're gonna do a poem about Starry Nights, and you could go to Arts and Culture and find that painting, and then
Mhm.
incorporate that, in your meet, and you guys could look at it together, and then you would have maybe your activities or whatever pushed out in classrooms. So I'm not to say that you couldn't direct students, but I am framing a little bit more like what my thoughts are here would be just like I'm doing with you and screen sharing, because lots of our families don't have reliable internet. Chromebooks struggle with something like if I wouldn't recommend trying to run a super HD image necessarily on a Chromebook along with a Meet. So just these ideas are to help you maybe find things that you could screen share and sort of walk through together with the students and more of a viewer thing than interacting. Now, with that being said, they can go exploring, and that's how they're framed on the parent website. These are just framed as extra fun, creative things that your students could access. If you, as a teacher, are going to use it, I would certainly be probably directing them to a specific spot.
Great.
Hope that
Thanks. And
answers the question.
Coralie put some ideas in the chat too.
And so actually, I was going to the Google Earth is where I'm going next. The last time I went in Google Earth, it didn't ask for a login or anything, so I have not had a chance to check this with student accounts, but it would appear that they've made some changes again. So again, I'm not saying send kids to Google Earth necessarily, and the parent website, the assumption there is that kids are accessing that stuff with parents as well. So there's a number of apps there that parents might even have to sign them up for accounts and whatnot. This is the new version of Google Earth. I actually haven't been in Earth myself now ever since they did say that under 18 couldn't access, because that took it out of my realm of my job. How I ended up on this was I was looking for Google Street View, which used to be a collection of tours and everything. And I learned that what they've done is moved that website all directly into Google Earth. So I have not had tons of time to go through this yet, but I am a little familiar with the Street View piece, which was how I ended up in here. So they got virtual tours that again you could pull up and launch in a screen share like this. Google Earth is taxing on a computer and bandwidth also. We're looking at some pretty high definition stuff here. So just keep that in mind. um, that students accessing from home and stuff, this one could be a little bit different. But again, if you're doing it on your computer from school and sending it out, you're taking some of that taxing away. So all you're doing is sending a video feed when you screen share like this. I'm not going to go too deep into this. We could spend a lot of time exploring in here. Just wanted to bring it to your attention that you might want to go looking here for things to show your students as you're coming up with plans for those online meets. A couple others that we don't need to look at super deep. Just when I was doing some research into online field trips, I found this website where you can see some cool 360 views of farming operations. So a 360 is a so they've got a video. So I don't know if you've ever seen a 3D video, but that's how they work. You can see that we've got this is like created by someone, so they're not perfect. Like there's a line appearing here. Um, and if you get motion sickness, user beware. You might want to warn your students if you were gonna be doing a lot of the whipping around the camera angles. But those are their 360 videos. These are just these grain farm ones. Yeah, there's actually lots of 360 videos on YouTube. Some music concerts actually even done in 360. And then they've got some more videos as a part of a field trip here also. So the idea would be that this is one um, sort of lesson about grain farming, and then they've got other types of farming here also. Discovery Education. So Discovery is an expensive paid for site that we don't subscribe to, but you could access some of their virtual field trips and things. So again, you might not necessarily be sending these out to students, but it would be a good thing that you could lead on a meet also. Don't go digging and find too much of their paid content, because it will make you sad that we don't have it. Unfortunately, it is um, it's quite pricey, but they have good stuff and they do offer some things for free. So you have to dig a little bit. The link here comes right into these virtual field trips that they have. But just beware, some of them are better than others. I only clicked on a few, and some I wouldn't necessarily call an online field trip. And not that you guys would go launching something without previewing it with students anyways, but you could burn a little bit of time here looking for the things you need also. EarthCam is live camera feeds, so you may have seen different ones of these pop up in social media and whatnot. Actually, the Calgary Zoo just recently posted live cams in their panda habitat. So same thing, I would use this as a class as a like I am with you right now. I would probably go and find one of these cameras ahead of time and make sure that I'm jumping into that specific one. I um there's there's a lot, and some of them are just, random views on streets, so I think I think this link oh, yeah, this one is actually animal cams specifically. So if you end up out on the Earth Cam main website, that's, there's a lot of stuff there, like I say, random cities, and there's a Planet Earth Cam out in space, so there's tons here that you could drill in and find something cool to look at in a meet. Heck, Core's watching a panda have a nap. I watched a panda in Calgary have lunch and then lay down for a nap last week. Access Mars is cool. So I think this actually is running through it's this is a Google experiment, but it definitely has to be tied into their Google Earth and maps and all that kind of stuff. You can access Mars and the moon on Google Earth. And then they also have this 360 of the Mars rover, which is really cool. So these Google experiments are cool. I share some out sometimes, but they might go away or change. We can never be guaranteed. Oh, there it is. Here comes the rover. I haven't actually interacted with this one yet. So we could go even take our kids to Mars while they're all trapped at home during this quarantine. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about using these sites myself, but if you guys do use them and you have feedback like, hey, yeah, that was really great, or yeah, actually, that one wasn't such a good one, definitely let us know. 360 Cities is similar to, well, it's actually really similar to Google Earth and Street View and stuff. These are panoramas of somebody's very, very cluttered garage or shop. Oh, Cousin William's Workshop. So this one is telling us where we are. Again, same thing. This isn't something I would necessarily send out to my students for my recommendation. Oh, go check out this website. But you could find some cool 360s here that you could show them. Uncle William needs to clean. Cousin William needs to clean his workshop. Okay, those are my games. I'm going to stop.